Blessed love to each and everyone. Give thanks for your presence with us. This is a very special edition of the Shock of the Hour, both audio and video. The Tiger's Nest, of course, in full effect. I'm your host, the Honorable Priest Isaac, and of course, it is a joy to welcome you into my realms to experience the different levels that we go to right here. And let me just remind all those who have not subscribed to the nightly Shock of the Hour program, we are inviting you to subscribe to the Shock of the Hour itself. Now, this evening, there's a subject area that I really want to touch upon. It is something that is really coming from my heart. And this is why I am entitling this one, A Message to All Antiguans. And why that is so, it may sound strange to my international audience, like, oh, so what about us? It's really a message for everyone. But I'm speaking about what is taking place at this time on the ground here in the nation of Antigua and Barbuda. And what is taking place, really, about a week or so ago, a video came to light in a specific school, a secondary school here on the island, the All Saints Secondary School to be specific, where a young lad had a cord from a fan, and what he was doing, he was taking the cord. These are children in school. I'm not sure the exact form, maybe third form or second form, somewhere thereabouts. And he was taking the cord and he was putting the cord around the neck of another student that was sitting. And the class had other students, maybe the class was full or half full, but you could hear the children jeering, some making noise and some encouraging it. And another student was actually videotaping it. So what happened now, the video came to light. I have the video there. It's not something I really want to circulate, but the video came to light and it got around the nation, and of course it came into the hands of the Ministry of Education. So the boys that were involved in the propagation, trying to provoke the other young man, because the one that they were putting the noose around his neck, well, it's not a noose, but the cord from the fan around his neck, he was not really retaliating. He would just kind of push them away, and he continued to read, and he would push them away. Nothing happened, no fight came about because of that. So anyway, the boy that had the wire and the one that had the phone, they were both suspended from school like about a week ago. So what happened just yesterday now, the Ministry of Education, through, not the minister, but through the Director of Education, that's one, Mr. Claire Brown, made an announcement officially that these two young men have been expelled. So they're no longer on suspension, because suspension means you're taking a time out and you will return in whatever time, 2 weeks or a month. But when you are expelled, that means you are gone for good. Now, through this expulsion now, these young men cannot attend another public school, or government school as you would call it. They obviously would have to go to a private school if they want to continue their secondary schooling or somewhere overseas. And it's not, not a positive that the private school here would accept them after they've been expelled by the government. It's the government, sometimes a principal, and I'm speaking locally, for those who know this culture. And basically it's the same in the Caribbean, where the principal would take charge and expel or suspend a student. But this is the Ministry now of Education that is making this decision to expel the child. So what it is now, in our society, it appears as if most people agree with the decision that was made. Because at first, when I heard of it, after seeing the video, I did not agree with the decision. But then listening to the different radio programs and hearing the words in the street, I come to realize that most people agree with this. Honestly, it didn't make me go and revisit my decision in mind, because I know why. I know exactly why I would disagree with that. Now, I must say that when I saw the video, if you've seen the video, and anyone that is watching this in Antigua, more than likely you've seen the video, and I would like you all to share this video here, because I want everyone to see this. When I saw the video now, the clip of the youth man put in, the first thing I said to myself, well, a lot of people were saying, boy, if that was my child, so and so. I was saying, wow, well, if that was me, I think I would be the one they would have to suspend and eventually expel, because I would take the chair that I was sitting on. I mean, just knowing me, straight up, just knowing me, I would take the chair that I was sitting on. Well, that's just what I would have done. At that time, yeah, I would have do that. You can't just come and be wrapping no wire around my neck. My parents wouldn't have to get involved in that. I'm telling you. But at the same time, I'm looking at that as an individual who is very proactive. And I spoke on a radio program just today. In fact, not just a radio program. I think it's the most listened radio program. And I would say hands down the most listened radio station in the land. And when I called in, I asked them for a specific amount of minutes. So what I'm saying here is actually something that I said, but of course this is the nest. So we're going to expound a little more with clarity. I think I asked them for 3 minutes and I took such, maybe a little more, but we're going to take more than that here. So being proactive meaning that if you know me, I'm constantly writing letters to the stakeholders as it relates to many different things. You may hear me speak about Greencastle Hill and the preservation of Greencastle Hill and the cease and desisting of the destruction of Greencastle Hill. The preservation really, outside of the tours and all of that, but the preservation, that's a fight within itself. But when it comes to the youth, you would know that we annually do an essay competition for African History Month. What does your African heritage / history mean to you? What does it mean to me? And what that does, it encourages the child to go and study. Because you ask the child, what does your African heritage mean to you? And the child, well, to be honest, my what? African heritage, well, don't mean a thing to me, But if you say, okay, if you could write an essay of X amount of words or R amount of words, I will give you this laptop, yeah? I will give you this brand new digital camera, or I will give you this top-notch phone or whatever. Well, we never had a phone as a prize, as far as I can remember, no. But laptop, tablets, cameras, usually along that lane. And children would say, yeah, all right. Okay, what does African heritage / history mean to me? So they go and they Google African history. That's a start. That's a start. That's the beginning of a process there. And they have to write 300 plus words depending on which category or which group that they're in, because we have junior, intermediate, and the senior. We range it from the age of 5. People say, oh, that's too young. 5 is too young. Give thanks, brother. 5 is too young. before my children, once they talking, my children, when they start to talk, Mary had no little lamb, they start by saying, it's Saturn and Jupiter and Io and the Orion constellations and Ursa Ma'atra, and that's their first words. So 5 ain't no too young to have a child writing an essay. He ain't gonna be 300 words. You know what I mean? I think one year we started from 7. But he ain't gonna be no 300 words for the 7-year-old. Maybe 150. We usually change it every year. But the point is, it gets the child interested in their African history, in their African heritage. So they go and they investigate, they look into, they go into the encyclopedia, well, for those who know what that is, or Wikipedia, or anypedia, and they go and say, okay, let me see, what is this Africa stuff all about? And maybe for the first time in their life, they're really penetrating a picture of the continent and the different, countries within it. Just getting themselves sensitized. The caterpillar, researching caterpillar history. I know he's been studying worm history from the day he was born. And he was given the worm god and the worm religion because the caterpillar seems to look like the worm to some degree. That's what happens when you're enslaved by the worm. It ain't no disrespect to the worm, but the worm has its own characteristic. The worm digs in the ground and underneath the earth, ain't too much sunlight and eating microbiotic vibration. Well, the caterpillar has a totally different future, a totally different existence. The caterpillar is on the green leafy vegetables and eating, the chlorophyll and will one day spin a cocoon and burst wings and fly off and go to the choices of flowers and suck the nectar. That's the life of a butterfly. And you may say, what on earth does this have to do with one student trying to choke another student? Well, you see, the fact that you cannot see where I'm coming from, that means you need this. That's why most of you think that it was right to just kick them out to school. Of course, I'm not the biggest fan of school, but it's the principle I'm talking about. And when I say school, you know what I mean. Because their institution itself, that alone is the next thing altogether. But I'm getting to all of that. Let's take our time. So when the butterfly now or the caterpillar feels within itself, it's nature working, there's something that, just like when a child comes to a certain age, there's certain hormones that begin to react. You can't stop it. So when the caterpillar reaches to a certain age, it feels certain things like, wow, what's going on here? That's the cocoon asking to be weaved so that you can hibernate. The wings are growing, like you feel them behind your back, like something itching me there. That's the wings, they want to come out. Worms don't go through that. So the worm's educational system and the worm's television program and the worm's music, even if the worm wasn't really trying to do you anything, just the fact that you're living off of the worm's culture, you will be affected. It only makes sense. You gotta be with me tonight, just the vibes. It's touching to me. So I'm just showing you now, my people, that this is why we do the essay competition. This is why we do the art competition around so-called Christmas time, when we ask little children to draw a picture or paint a picture of an African version of Christ and his mother. People say all kind of things. People say, oh yeah, he said he wanted to paint a black Jesus and Mary. I know I didn't say that. I never say that. Black Jesus and Mary. I know I never said that. I said an African version of Christ and his mother. You understand? But I mean, you know what I'm talking about. and you have children drawing that and shading Christ's face black and painting him black, and sometimes it looks like oil paint shining. So yeah, what you think you're doing to the mind of a child there? You're teaching a caterpillar its history. You're teaching it that it's not a worm. Because when you instill that now into the child, we're dealing with voodoo. Huh? Yeah. Franz Fanon again, Wretched of the Earth, speaks about the voodoo tradition and the standards within the voodoo tradition. The esteemed John Henry Clark, Chancellor Williams in The Destruction of the Black Civilization. You see, we're quoting books, we're quoting authors. That's what higher learning is all about. Academics, we ain't just talking, man. All of these esteemed authors teach us that there was a time in our history where we had no word for our prison. But yet still, in a country like the United States, where I think we're less than 14% of the population, yet still we are 51% of the inmates in prison. You just sit on that for a moment and you figure it out, keeping in mind that we are less than 14% of the people. And yet still 93, 94% of those of us that are in the prison are men, black brothers. 94% of black people in prison are brothers, so the rest are sisters. And in general, the prison population, there are 51% black people in prison and the 49 other different groups. But yet still we are about 12-13% of the population of the country. That means some serious maths. And what makes it worse is that we never even had a word. We never even had a word for prison in our tongue, in our ancient motherland. We didn't have no word for rape. We didn't have no word for homosexuality. I mean, what you talking about? You invent that, man. We didn't have no word for none of them things. People say God created good and evil. That's something else, man. God didn't create none of them. These are man-made inventions. Yeah, what are you talking about? Homosexuality. Huh? Yeah, but we're so soaked in this world and this philosophy that, you know what I mean, you gay bashing. Now, what I'm saying is this. When the young mind is grafted in its African consciousness, in its African heritage culture, and gains that African pride, remember, you know, man, we're talking about people that never uttered words that has to do with things that we partake the most in today. Because we lack our culture. We lack who we are, the understanding of who we are. A people without knowledge of self is a root without tree, or a tree without root. Well, yeah, a root without the tree. Because the root is there, but the tree is dead. But new life can spring out of the root. That's God talking, man. I thought I made a mistake. But a new life, new plants can come out of that same one root. That big stump you see in the ground is a root without a tree. So we become like trees without roots, according to Marcus Messiah Garvey, when we separate ourselves from who we really are. So when you separate yourself from your history and your heritage, you have separated yourself from who you really are. So even things that happen to you, you're numb to it, you feel no pain. They're going to rag the tooth out of your mouth, they give you injections and they numb the pain. And then they can rag it out, you see the blood dripping down and you don't feel a thing. You may be even sleeping too. Because they've numbed the area. So they've numbed certain areas, even in the mind. They've numbed us from who we really are. So when you hear of the robbery taking place in Congo and how they're raping all the minerals to run their technological world, yet still the richest country is the poorest country, that don't mean nothing to us because we're numbed. We don't care about our great, for sure, great grandmother, because they're there. Your great cousins are there. If you can comprehend what I'm saying. So we now, even in that realms, we now consider the importance here of an individual knowing who they are. The caterpillar understanding what time it is. That is why they call a silkworm a silkworm. A silkworm is a caterpillar, you know. Go and look it up. A silkworm is not a worm, it's a caterpillar. So if you're laughing at my little theory here, even in the real world, they have the worm and the caterpillar mixed up. When you teach children their African heritage, obviously I'm talking about black children. When you teach them their African heritage, their African pride, their African history, culture, from a young age, from the second one. In fact, you got to live it, but listen, even if you're not living it, put it into your syllabus. So the bus wouldn't be so silly anymore. What a silly bus and the carry kill is the African god, the The sound they say the pyramid makes, the gimme afumi. Yeah. Me want yam something, yam. The god, the yam. All of this is the ancient culture that is still with us. So the now, the carry kill the same syllabus carry us to the school and the kill dead. That was designed to kill the African spirit in you, brother. That was designed to cut your wings off of you, sister caterpillar. So you never spin no cocoon, nothing, because you think you're a worm. So you get the worm syllabus straight up. The worm way of thinking straight up. So this is why we've been proactive. This is why we set up programs. I'm not just here gaffing, you know. As our Guyanese brothers would say, sisters. This is why we put, as I said, essay competitions, art competitions, extravaganzas, poetry, fundraising for the youths, all, and then even outside of that, because this is what we do without help. But then now we also go to the stakeholders and those who are in charge as well. Teachers, a few teachers definitely would have some sympathy in what we're doing. Not for us, what we're doing, nothing wrong with us. Nothing wrong with the children I brought into the world. You understand? Because I'm remedying them with this. And in fact, when you come into the world, you don't even really need no remedying as such. But many of us are sick now and need remedying. I've offered my services to what they call the boys training school around here, through the social transformation. Offered my services to the Ministry of Education. You're speaking to an individual that on 2 occasions, brothers and sisters, have prevented individuals from killing themselves. They done slit their wrists already. And just through the same worm caterpillar talk, and hear all God's just a little reasoning, like they wake up and say, wow, so where you gonna kill yourself for? This is why when I heard that they expelled the youths, not expelled with another plan for them, you know. How old they are? Maybe 14, 15. They just kicked them out of school. We all went to school, you know. I've seen worse than that in school. Like I was saying to the hosts of the programs that I called in today, last week they were making some jokes about in their days fellas used to sam. For those who don't know what salmon is group sex. It's not even group sex. It's more like what do you call it? More like a gang atmosphere, because it's one girl and fellas lining up outside of a room and going in one by one to deal with the girl on a sexual level. And that was going on when I used to go to secondary school. You hear me? And these grown brothers, they're older than me, were speaking about that in their time. They may, precede me 10 years or so. And they were saying in their times, one of them actually went to the same school that I passed through, and in their times that was a big thing. They weren't bringing to light if they did it or not. I for sure never partook in anything like that. But I'm saying they, and they were chuckling and laughing. But it was all around us. And some of the fellas that did that, some of them are lawyers today. Do you know that's gang rape, you know? What the brother did when he put the string around the wire around the other child's neck, that's like almost attempted murder. And rightfully, the authorities could become involved in that. Nothing wrong. That don't mean you're supposed to get scared because the authorities, but then our authorities are not really certified. They're certified on paper, but certified in the realms of morality and nature to deal with a lot of this. Yeah, it's attempted murder, but then as I just explained, did we teach this young caterpillar its nature? Did we ever take the time to explain to him what's the role of a caterpillar? But then again, we as caterpillars, we don't know neither. Hardly any of us have reached to the butterfly stage. So what good do we know? This is serious. As I was saying on the same program, as a child, brother, as a child, I watched Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Elmer Fudd. And there's a cartoon I could remember. I was looking at it the other day. About 15 times in that cartoon, Elmer Fudd shut off Daffy Duck beak, with the beak end up on top of his head. All the feather come off his face. Several times Elmer Fudd put that in his face. The same cartoon when Bugs Bunny put on the beak and put on the little shower cap, and then Daffy Duck put on the ears, and it's duck season, rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, rabbit season, duck season, and boom, Daffy Duck gets his head blown off every time. But I'm just saying, these cartoons, man, they're full of violence. Full of violence, even Roadrunner. Full of violence, but nobody taking us on. So we see what the problem is, and we bring solutions. We don't wait on people to bring the solutions, but yet still, we also try our best to incorporate the higher authorities in bringing the solution. Better solutions. Something that's not just me alone doing it, but the nation doing it. And not just the government now, even the people. Because my message goes to the people too, you know. I don't just write letters to governor generals and prime ministers and minister of education and so and so. No, I address the regular people now, and corporate Antigua too. None of us ready for this. You see, there's a stigma on Rastafari, eh? No matter how much pretty words you have and how whatever, you're still Rastafari. I'm not asking you. You can't come and tell me about, oh no, Rasta ain't that. I'm not asking you. I said there is a stigma around here on Rastafari. In fact, they're afraid of you sometimes. Like, wow, like he's whatever they say. I'm too whatever I am to be just a Rasta. Like, nah man, he can't be no Rasta. He too whatever they say, intelligent and have his business and all of that. Sick. These are the same people that I say you want to hear them on the radio. Then right for expel them. If that mean before me pick me. Then right for this and right for that. Some people go to public school because they cannot afford the private school. Now suppose they cannot afford the private school. Because they're not accepted in no other public school. And as I said, it's not just schooling. It's the principle of what I'm talking about. A whole nation I witnessed turn their back on two children that may have made a little mistake. It is a little mistake. Because in reality, they didn't choke him and have him dragging on the ground, you know. It was just put around his neck. And I don't want to say just to minimize it, because I myself am not pleased with it at all. Definitely. But expulsion wouldn't be my thought. And even if you think you had to make that decision, all right. But what's the next step now? Where you just throw them out the nest? You don't even look to see if they can fly? Well, that's the, what they call it in America. School to prison pipeline there. Because you've just thrown them down the pipeline to prison if you just let them go in society. And around here it's the law, you know, man, that you got to be in school. In their law, you know what I'm talking about. So now you take people that have not finished their secondary education. Because one student put a wire around another student's neck. And the fella that was taping it, he get expelled too. That's why I brought up now the salmon business. As I said, I know people that are police, lawyers, magistrates, and dignified people in society that I know for sure used to run them train there back in the days. And fellas would go in the bookstore and buy a comic book and then go around and shove a Playboy in it and just walk out the store. Some of them is dignified, wearing wig on their head and black robes now in the courts. I know them personally. Let's assume that they were caught doing all of them kind of things and you expelled them. Where would they be? Not that if you're expelled, that means you can't reach to that standard or higher. Because to me, wearing a wig and a robe in the court and swearing to Her Majesty the Queen ain't really no standard. But I'm judging this off of society. Them is high standards. Putting a wire around neck, man, I've seen worse than that, but I'm telling you. You understand? So when you do that to them, what do you have in place for them? Have you turned your back on them? There's no programs, you just leave them there? Are they the wretched of the earth? No, man. That ain't cool at all. That's not cool at all. This is why I said this is actually a message to Antiguans. To check yourself, man. You deal with the youth's dread. This is like a piper thing, man. We gotta blow the pipe and pull them away from you. You deal with them dread, man. During the time of the Lent, the Almighty God showed you so many signs when He came to the youths, and you just look over it. You just look over it. The babies, 4 babies burnt up in the hospital. You just look over that. A little baby that they found that they found on the gallery. Up to now they don't, or veranda, up to now they cannot find the mother. They don't know who's the father. They don't know nothing about the little baby, and they still have that baby. That's over a month plus now. That baby is still in the hospital because the investigation by the police have to be turned over to the social transformation. You know, we had a hike to raise funds for that little child. I don't think no one else on the island has done nothing like that. Then there's a case, all of this happening in like a week's time, you know, there's a case where a father came out of his bus, and the daughter, little girl, went into the bus and removed the hand lever, and when the bus started to roll off the hill, she jumped out of the bus and the bus ran over her and killed her. All of this happening in 1 week, at a week span, during the time of Lent. And I could actually relate to that, because as a child, a truck ran over my leg, and it was my father driving the truck, the same thing, trying to jump on in the truck. I was like a child amongst many, you know. I was like 5 years old. We were playing cricket. I was with the bigger boys, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, and when my father would come home, he'd drive this big truck. And I'd pick up in a truck. Oh. And when he come to the pasture, everybody running and jumping on the truck. Boy, I was the smallest brother. Jumping on the truck, I can see it, you know. It always comes to me like that's my first vivid memory ever. I could see me jumping up on the truck, them old time truck too, and then drop off. And the truck reversing ran over my left leg. I could see myself, I was underneath, vomiting. Give thanks to Kadama Haile Selassie I. And because of such, I could, relate to the situation with the girl that was run over the truck, but she was run over, I think, through her stomach, but she's dead. And then in that same time, there was this accident where a girl just came out of a car, and this bus ran into the car and crushed her head against the wall. All of this, not crushed, but damaged her, because she's still alive. Not crushed, but damaged her and cracked her. And I went on the radio and I said, hey man, we need to see this clearly, man. The Almighty is saying something to us as it relates to how we're dealing with the children of the land. And I'm not afraid to say, pardon me, Marcus Garvey, I'm not afraid to say that I'm directly connected to the Almighty. Let's just say it that way. People want to take your words off. I'm connected to the Almighty. I always tell a person, man, if you have a message from God, you can give it to me. I'm sure he will get it. It should be so with you, but if you don't feel so about yourself, that's your business. So even though people would want to take you as if you're the elephant in the room and they don't see you, that don't mean you're not in the room. So this is why when I heard they just expelled them, although I could share with the, being appalled at what I saw, that's not the actions to take. In fact, actions should have been taken a long time. Since they born, you should have been counseling them. Don't try counsel them now. Well, you can counsel them now. But they should have been counseled from day one. African heritage and history in the curriculum have already officially in the present, not no letter, speaking to the ministers in flesh and the Prime Minister just to my right, offering my services to put together an African heritage curriculum. We ain't serious. I don't care what nobody tell me. We're not serious. Holy Emmanuel, I, Selassie, Jah,